Welcome back to Kev Talks Real World Global Logistics. Today's episode is a treat. No tricks, though we can't promise there won't be a few spooky supply chain stories along the way. We're joined by someone we've known for quite a while, a trusted partner in understanding the mysteries of global logistics, Heather Rush. Many of you remember Heather from her past appearances where she delivered her legendary custom quick tips, always practical, always sharp, and sometimes eerily on point. Heather's been helping companies navigate the labyrinth of customs and compliance long before most of us knew what landed cost really meant. So today she's back to share her insights and maybe a few ghost stories from the world of global shipping. Grab your pumpkin spice, hold on to your manifest, and let's get into the spooky but always insightful side of logistics with Heather Rush. Welcome, Heather.
Hey, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Before we get started, KP, how long did you figure out how to weave all of those words in there?
I know, right?
Exactly. Like you used labyrinth.
Labyrinth. I know. I worked really hard on that one. I thought, some way I've got to incorporate the word labyrinth. I haven't said that enough this year.
You did good.
So I did it.
Have you said it once this year?
Probably one other time, but that's a whole other story. That's another
one of my favorite movies.
Oh, it's a great movie,
right? Yeah. Well, Heather, I'm glad you've decided to. Did you dress up, or is that just normal? And you work from home,
normal,
right?
Normal Wednesday afternoon for me. Got my cauldron over here for all of my customs mixology.
Dude, yes. Spooky. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm missing. I meant to have I need a drink.
Well, if I had I've got a 2-year-old grandson, and this is really the first Halloween that he has much of a concept of it, and everything right now is that's scary. Everything is that's scary. That's awesome. So when I saw you, Heather, I thought that's scary.
Yeah. Thanks, appreciate that.
Well, listen, like I mentioned earlier, Heather, I think, a lot of our listeners and audience know you from the customs quick tips that you've been providing for us. Thank you for those. But maybe just share a little bit about your background and why you're still in supply chain, and then we'll get right into it.
Well, why I'm still in supply chain, I have no idea. That's just the insanity. But
yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I've been in the industry for far longer than I care to remember. I started on the ocean carrier side 25 plus years ago. Then moved over to the retail side, working for Home Depot for a number of years on their international logistics contracting and capacity management. That was back when capacity first became an issue and we started with allocations and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Then I moved over to Hapag-Lloyd, spent 15 years at Hapag-Lloyd in various sales roles, led the retail vertical for North America with Hapag-Lloyd. And then I decided to try my hand out at freight forwarding and started up the sales division of Castlegate Forwarding for Wayfair. So stood up that team. That was very different. So the one thing I hadn't done was customs. So of all the timings in the world, last year I decided to get my customs brokerage license. And it couldn't have been any better timing. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of labyrinths and mazes to work through, but having a great time helping people out.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, Higgins and I have both known you for, I think, most of that time, decades. But really glad that you're in this part of the business today because a lot of clients, a lot of customers, a lot of BCOs need this type of help. So great timing for you to get into this part of the supply chain. You like us, you've been around it, but not in it. Now you're in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, since this is the Halloween episode, one of the scariest things that I've ever seen is one of the allocation spreadsheets from one of the companies that she mentioned. And when somebody walks in and they unfold it and it takes up a 9-foot conference table and that's their allocation worksheet, I'm like, oh, That's
That's
scary.
scary.
That's scary for sure.
Really good. That was
Yeah.
awesome. All right,
Mhm.
Heather. So before we unleash the ghouls, tell us about Harry F. Long Customs Broker and what you do there.
Yeah. So Harry F. Long has been around since 1965. We've been helping importers navigate the maze of customs compliance for all that time, and we're independently owned and focus 100% on customs, on U.S. customs. So we can tailor to a client's needs to help them with tariffs, classifications, and trade compliance. And the owner of Harry F. Long, talking about long-term relationships, was my in-house customs broker when I was at Home Depot 20 plus years ago. And we
Wow.
happened to stay in touch all those years. And it just was serendipity that he was buying a brokerage at the same time I was studying to get my brokerage license, and we hit the ground running. And we're growing significantly. We've been hiring on a hiring spree over the past few months, just trying to grow and build teams.
That's awesome. That's exciting. That's great for a business that's been in operation for that long and in a growth mode. Pretty telling. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's huge.
All right. So if customs were a haunted house, what's the scariest room? Is it the room of lost paperwork? Is it the phantom audit corridor? What is it?
I think that one's pretty easy. It's the HTS code dungeon. It's
Oh,
dark,
Yeah.
it's
nice,
confusing,
Heather.
it's scary, and just the wrong turn of classifying goods is going to send you down a long path and a long tunnel of audits and fines and penalties. So it's kind of like stepping on the creaky floorboard of the U.S. Customs ghosts and waking them up.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I
an
love that,
enormous
Heather.
room with a maze from one side to the other, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah.
Never know what's behind the next turn.
And it's always changing.
So Heather, do you find that most clients, BCOs, understand how their haunted house is put together and where the scariest room is at? Like you said, HTS. Is there a understanding from many clients that how important that is? I guess.
Now more than ever, there's starting to be, but it's still not there. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of BCOs just kind of put it on cruise control and let customs was just paperwork and harmonized tariff
Yep.
codes were just a number. And they're starting to realize that changing 2 or 3 digits in that number can mean a difference in a lot of money or can wind up in audits if you get it wrong. So
Yeah.
they're having to learn more about it than they ever have.
Interesting. All right. So we're gonna, the audience is gonna have to bear with us a little bit. We're going to kind of build a scene here. We're all sitting around a bonfire, and it's freezing cold, and Higgins has got his third cup of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any compliance ghost stories that you can tell that still haunt us or haunt you?
I think the one that comes to my mind every time somebody asks me that is before I was actually in the customs side, but on the fringes of it. There was an importer that had multiple containers held up at the port because they contained automated robotic vacuum cleaners, and the shipper did not declare lithium batteries, and it was a huge deal. And it wasn't just on the custom side. It was big enough because it got held for actually months. There were inspections, investigations, there were audits on other containers, and there was a lot of demurrage and a lot of fees. But you also have to think about the danger that could have caused on the ocean side being loaded onto a vessel. And the whole reason that the shipper did it was because it was too difficult, and they didn't want to deal with the paperwork of declaring hazardous goods with an ocean carrier. And so it caused such a upstream and downstream. It caused that particular importer to really raise its trade compliance program and make sure that they were doing things the right way because they relied on the shipper too much and the shipper got it wrong.
Yeah.
That's so common. That's so real world. What you
Yeah.
just described, I can think of when, listening to you, I can think of many times when that exact scenario occurred. Way too often, actually.
And it happens a lot more than we know too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It goes back to this is back in the 90s, I think, Heather, but they talk informed compliance, right?
Yep.
You have to you put that on it's your responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's the importer of record that holds the bag.
Yeah.
And paid
All right,
lots of
Heather.
fines.
Yeah.
So tricks versus treats in compliance. So we talked a little bit about paperwork. Their missteps, like trick or treating with a bag full of rotten candy, if you will. You think you're safe, but surprise, you're not. What are the sneaky tricks importers fall for sometimes?
I think the biggest one that we see is the importers making the assumption that their freight forwarder is handling the compliance. And while the freight forwarder may also have a brokerage division, at the end, just like we were just talking about, it's the importer of record that's responsible. And
Yeah.
they need to have their I's dotted and their T's crossed, and not assuming, and that's always the big word, is the assuming that the freight forwarder knows what they're doing as far as customs compliance and is taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we're seeing a lot of right now is there are so many software systems and platforms that are trying to sell, we can classify all your goods. All you do is put in a description and we'll tell you what all your tariffs are going to be, and all of these different types of things. There's still the need for human involvement for that verification and that validation.
Well, I was going to ask you that because that's a pretty common question that gets asked of me is like, okay, well, how is AI playing into, customs declarations and customs compliance and classification?
It's got to help.
It does. What AI can do is it can take your commercial invoice, your bill of lading, your arrival notice, and it can learn where to pull specific data points from, and it can help fill out the entry. But there's still the need for audit. Is that correct? Is that how the importer wants that classified? Is the tariff pulling correctly? So it can save a lot of time on the entry process, but there's still that need for, before you click submit to customs, somebody needs to review and audit it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a benefit, but it's not a replacement of exactly, what you described.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I never say never because AI is going to be taking over the world. But at this point, it's not that you can just pull everything through AI and send it to customs and be done.
Yeah.
There has to be an audit because there's so much room for error with classifications.
Yeah. All right. Share a treat, a practice that maybe prevents a real scare.
One of the things I didn't realize, coming from the retail side, coming from the ocean carrier side, is how much benefit CTPAT certification has as far as customs goes, as far as an importer bringing things in, and the fact that customs they do less inspections and they move things along more quickly if you're CTPAT certified. And that's something that's pretty easy to do and get that certification, assuming you have all your paperwork in a row.
Yeah.
And that's something that every importer can do and save themselves time and money.
And that's something that you don't hear a lot about anymore. I mean,
Exactly.
15 years ago, it was like everybody needs to get CTPAT certified, but you just don't, it's almost like a long forgotten thing. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I believe it's still incredibly important.
It is. And it's certainly helpful at times like these.
Yeah.
All right. Tales from the Customs Crypt. We talked a little bit about horror stories. Do you have any horror stories of when maybe a small oversight turned into a huge nightmare, and how was that addressed, and what would Harry F. Long do?
I think for what seemed to be a small incident, turned out not to be so small. It was an importer that decided to kind of do it himself and do his own paperwork. And he was bringing in an agricultural product, and he missed one permit. And that one permit, which if I remember right, it was an EPA permit. He didn't have that permit. Customs held it and put it in a warehouse. And by the time he cleared it the following week, the goods had perished because they were perishables. They had gone bad. So he had storage fees. He had fines for not having the permit, and he had to replace the goods. So it was like one piece of paper costs that one importer a large amount of money for one container.
Holy cow.
Oh, wow.
Reminds me of blueberries. I used to deal with a lot of blueberries and always had time sensitive. Like, that's something you really want to do when you're dealing with time sensitive cargo. You want to make sure that you have all your paperwork in a row before it even leaves, much less it's already arrived.
Yeah. Blueberry is kind of the color of your hair.
It is.
Bluish. Yeah.
It haunts me. Blueberries haunt me.
Yeah. That's scary.
What was it from Willy Wonka? What was that girl's name? Farouche?
Oh, Violet.
Violet.
Yeah, because Violet, you're turning Violet.
Beauregard. Yeah, Violet Beauregard. That's right. Well, what is the craziest, spookiest thing that somebody has found when their stuff has gone for an exam? Like, there's been any like skeletons or anything that somebody's found that they didn't declare?
So actually, yes.
Yeah.
I had, this was before I was in customs though, back in my, in a previous job, distribution center called and, reported that there were insects near a container. And so we sent it for fumigation, came back, and they opened it up, and inside was a skeleton.
Ooh.
Oh.
So that was definitely the biggest, weirdest case of undeclared product I've ever seen. But
yeah.
Wow. Well, that reminds me, I thought you were going to say spiders. That reminds me very early in my career, in a state that should not have spiders, Hawaii. There was a container that was opened at the store, and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of spiders were in, exactly. And it shut down not just, that street, that store, but an entire block. They shut it down, and it was a major ordeal. And this was early in my career, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? That was scary. That was real scary.
That's scary. Yeah, we've had, I've seen containers like that have dogs, a monkey from South America, and it does. You think you laugh about it. It's a monkey, haha, but nobody realizes the impact and the reaction that causes with multiple agencies when something shows up that's not supposed to be in that area.
Yeah.
But one interesting fact that, if you know that, interesting facts that you learn while you're with customs is switchblades. A switchblade, you push the button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're illegal to import except for in two cases. One, if you're military, and two, if you only have one arm.
What?
Okay,
a one-arm command can import
what?
Switchblade.
Explain, Heather. What?
Yeah. Well, if a person only has one arm, they can't open a knife, so they are allowed to import a switchblade, but only in that case, or if it's military. Otherwise, they're illegal to import.
Okay, my mind
that's
is
scary,
blown.
isn't it?
For two reasons that's
I'm literally
real,
speechless.
Right. And you're sharing that. That is awesome. I've never heard such.
That
Look at your face, Higgins.
I know, because think about this: a one-armed man or somebody literally petitioned the U.S. government to get an exemption to a rule to import switchblades.
That's where you went. Oh, that's interesting. That's probably how it came about.
How?
It didn't just happen by accident.
No.
Yeah, we'll have to chat GPT that and get the background and the history and how that was done. That's very interesting,
I
Heather.
need to know.
That is definitely a customs quick tip.
There you go.
That's the
And
coolest
scary
thing
to
that
think
I've
about.
heard this week.
Outside of Labyrinth.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let's get into maybe
I'm out.
debunking some superstitions, in the customs compliance world. Maybe we play a little bit of a game, myth or monster, kind of myth busting.
Okay.
My
Ooh, bring 'em on.
Okay,
Dude,
my
let's
freight
go.
forwarder takes care of everything.
False.
Myth or monster?
Dude.
It's like we already talked. There's always this big assumption that they're going to take care of everything, and especially small importers that have no experience are always
Right.
surprised when their container's sitting at the port waiting for customs clearance and their broker hasn't or their forwarder hasn't done anything. They don't do it all.
Here's another one. I love this. If customs clears it once, it's forever safe.
Fiction. Definitely fiction. Yeah, customs clearing something is not a precedence. They look at things differently every time. Regulations change, HS codes change. And so again, we could never make the assumption that just because it happened one way that you're free and clear and that it's just going to be smooth sailing.
Yeah, you just read my next one. HTS codes are the same everywhere.
Fiction.
Wouldn't that make life simpler?
Well, and it's actually, I'm having an ongoing discussion with somebody on this now, not with another company who's working on some customs systems, that it's not universal. The first 6 codes are universal. The first 6 digits are universal, but the last 4 are not. Every country can do them differently, can have different numbers that apply different regulations and different tariffs. So
Wow.
that's also something
why it's so
everybody looking at
complicated.
they just want the first 4 codes, first 6 codes. There are some of the freight forwarders or the air forwarders that are now requiring the full 10 codes, the full 10 digits, which to me is a little bit of overkill because honestly, the last 2 digits of the 10 are just for statistical reporting, but I can understand up to 8 because it breaks down so specifically now.
Yeah. Okay, here's a really good one that I think I have heard and understanding from more than one person. Paying duties equals always compliant. I'm not kidding.
I need a gong.
Right? The thought process is, hey, I'm paying for something. I'm paying the duties. Therefore, by doing that, I am compliant. And again, that's not a very sound
No,
thought.
and that goes back to the myth that customs is just paperwork. Just sitting a check doesn't mean that you're paying the right amount, that you've declared it the right way, that you have all the permits in place, that there's a lot of boxes to check. It's not just mailing a check or having an ACH withdrawal out of your account.
And that's why you should leave it up to the experts, a Harry F. Long, right?
Agree.
So this one's a little, in the context of what we're talking about, what keeps coming back from the dead year after year? Same old, same old. What problem?
Even more so
what
now,
issue?
it's how do I get out of paying tariffs? How do I
Right?
not how do I get them for free? How do I reclassify? It's people trying to skirt it versus just doing it the right way that it needs to be done.
Sounds like a conversation with your CPA too.
Right.
Very similar.
All right, Heather.
And I think that's a lot of it is people are trying to look for, and that's something that we do. We help review people's databases, their product databases and how they have them classified. Or do they have them correctly? But it's to save them as much money as possible, but in the right way. Like we had when the aluminum and steel derivatives started coming out in August, a lot of brokers, and I hate to say a lot of brokers that are part of other bigger companies, were just going ahead and paying the full 50% on the full amount, the full value, instead of breaking down the derivatives with the thoughts of we can always go back and change the percentage later and file a petition and get the refund. But are they really going back and doing that? Whereas if you break it down and you know that this piece of copper costs $10 on $1,000 valued piece, and you're only paying 50% of $10, that's a big difference than paying 50% of the full value.
Yeah. So along those same lines, let's talk a little bit about practical tips. Kind of in the theme of Halloween, it's the garlic and holy water for dodging customs demons, right? So give us some actionable advice to avoid those scary situations.
I think the biggest one that we're doing a lot with our customers right now is helping them validate their HS codes, building a database that have all of their product numbers, that have all of the HS codes, that are looking at the different derivatives, and keeping a spreadsheet of all of their products. And when they add, keep it going, don't forget about it. I think a lot of people for a long time thought customs was just a one and done. Once you had your list, you're done. But there's so many things that are changing. And so keeping a list and working closely with someone, a customs broker, to make sure that you're doing it right. And we've gone back to some new customers and looked at previous shipments and found where their previous broker had not classified them correctly or had not done the derivatives correctly, and are getting them thousands of dollars back.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So if there's a compliance ghost that appears, what's the first thing that someone should do outside of the holy water?
A compliance ghost.
What's the first thing that, if there's a compliance issue that arises, what's the first thing that a BCO should do outside of make sure they're talking to their customs broker? Are there things that they can do? I guess I'm kind of somewhat of a checklist or a tool or a resource to kind of keep the ghost at bay.
Certainly keeping a good record, even if it's just a spreadsheet. Keeping a spreadsheet per shipment and making sure you have all the documentation. Because if you get audited, if you have the package already together and say, here's my invoice, here's my bill of lading, here's the classification, here's what we, based our classification on, it goes much smoother than trying to scramble after they start asking questions. So keeping the details, keeping it, all together. And like I said, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet, we have a customs compliance checklist on our website that people can use as well, that it doesn't get into every detail, but it points them in the right direction of these are the things that we need to be considering before we get audited or before there's an inspection. Just making sure to ask the right questions, because things have changed so much, and people need to know what's going on versus just before it was kind of just lazy days, like paperwork, that's all it is, and they need to be aware of the compliance rules.
Yeah, I think that resource, that checklist that you mentioned, is a great start. And then, from there can obviously reach out to you and your team beyond that. But that's a great start and a great resource. All right. So this has been fun. I want to kind of start wrapping it up a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about Halloween candy. So Heather, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
It's mine and my dentist too. That's the one thing you never eat. You never see it any other time of the year, but I always loved them at Halloween, is bit of honey.
Ooh,
those are good.
That's a throwback.
What's the HTS code for bit of honey?
I'll let you know. I should have pulled that.
That would have been, If she'd have rattled that off, I'd have been
I know,
uber
right?
impressed, dude. I was just glad she didn't say circus peanuts because,
Ew.
God,
Ew.
talk about scary. Ugh.
That's kind of like peeps at Easter. It's just,
Oh, thank you, Heather. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a strong aversion. If one of our listeners, Judy, you know who you are. Judy knows my aversion to peeps. In fact, I came back to my desk one time during Easter, and they had plastered hundreds, if not thousands, of peeps all over my desk in my
No way,
office.
dude.
Yeah, I have a strong aversion to peeps. So note to everyone listening.
yeah, but I didn't think about
Yeah.
the circus peanuts. Those things are, ugh.
Yeah.
So what's your favorites?
I think, anything peanut butter cups, those are probably number one across, I think, most of the country, but love those.
I love a combination of the candy corn and peanuts.
Oh, yes.
You put candy corn in a bowl and then you just dump peanuts in there.
I do that. Yes.
Yeah.
They taste like paydays, right?
Tastes like a payday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew you were a brother. I know a lot of
Seen
people
it.
don't like candy corn, but if you mix them with peanuts, the salt and sweet,
Oh yeah. So
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
so good.
And you could probably, and you got 2 line items on that customs entry, the corn and the candy corn and the peanuts, right?
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, Heather. So this has been really, really
One's
good. I think-
agricultural, so it requires more.
Oh man. And one's not really corn.
True.
Oh, faux corn. All right.
We just locked Parkerson up. He's like, what?
We're going to go south really, really quickly. Listen, Heather, I want to give you an opportunity to, if listeners are wanting to find and learn more about Harry F. Long, exactly how they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. No, we can be found at harryflong.com, or you can also find me on LinkedIn at Heather Rush, or Harry F. Long also has a LinkedIn, and just reach out and contact us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Well, listen, this has not only been scary, it's been very informative. This is a special treat to have our Halloween episode and have you appear as you did and provide, just some guidance in challenging times. In all seriousness, it is challenging times for many of our listeners, BCOs, and importers and exporters in dealing with the current environment. So having a resource like Harry F. Long and Heather Rush are really, really important. So we're glad to have you and have you be a part of Kev Talks. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, always fun. One thing I was curious about, and just if people on LinkedIn or when you post this, what are the scary stories that the importers have seen? I'd like to hear what they've seen, what they've experienced. It's always good to learn from them.
Yeah, no, that's a great. We'll definitely do that in a call out specifically on LinkedIn and see if we can get some of those stories. That'd be great.
You need to tag Schimmelfinning in a post and ask her what the scariest thing was for her.
I think we would get a lot of good ones from her as well. Yep.
That's a great question, though.
Yeah, it is. All right, Heather. Always
Awesome.
great to see you. Thanks. Enjoy Halloween and trick or treat.
Yep. I'll grab my broom and get out of here.
I love it. Heather, it's good to see you. I got things I need to talk to you about later, but I'll schedule some time.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye.
Talk to you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. If today's discussion inspired you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, and share our podcast.
Remember, every great journey in logistics starts with a single step forward. Let's continue working together to transform the industry.